Hey, what's happening, everybody? Welcome to a special Friday night edition of the NFBC OC Online Championship live stream draft. And we get a double bang for our buck because it is the Beat Jason Anthony League, but also along with us is a fellow colleague and high stakes crusher, Nelson Sousa. So we got both these gentlemen in here for the draft. We are going to go through about 20 rounds today. And yeah, hope you enjoy your Friday night. I don't think there's really anything better for a fantasy baseball person to do than draft. How you guys doing?
Good, Vlad. I'm excited to draft with Nelson and talk some baseball.
Yeah, absolutely. I saw this in the draft room, and I thought it would be fun for us to butt heads in one league at least, try to avoid each other as much as possible, but had nothing going on a late Friday night.
This is the best. Yeah, this is the best time of year. We're about 2 weeks away from the opening games of Major League Baseball. That's the series in Tokyo. The Chicago Cubs and the Los Angeles Dodgers. That, of course, for all NFBC players or watchers, those are free look games. Meaning, once the games, basically, you don't have to make a decision on whether you want to start your Dodgers or Cubs until after the games have concluded. In fact, after the following week. And then in 3 weeks, the MLB season opens on March 27th. So there's a lot going on between now and then. Jason, myself, Mike Mager, a few others from the team are going to meet everybody in Vegas for the NFBC live events, a wonderful thing that Greg Ambrosius and team puts on over there. And so we're going to be with you here 2.5 minutes until this draft kicks off, having people come in the room here. For those not familiar with the format, this is a standard 5x5 roto. It's a 12-team league, and there's an overall component. So there's a large $150,000 grand prize at the top, league payouts to first and second. But I'm sitting here with a couple of seasoned NFBC veterans that obviously would want to win their league, but are also shooting for for the big stuff. So want to ask you both. I know you both doing 15 teamers. I know, Nelson, you've got a main event coming up early in the week. So, Nelson, how are you pivoting between your 15 team prep and your 12 team, and how do you do them differently?
I actually don't. So I'm trying to finish my 12 teamers by the time I draft on Tuesday. I feel like last year I did a couple of 12 teamers in between when I was doing main events, and I feel like it threw me off a little bit. So yeah, I'm definitely trying to cut the 12 teamers after Monday, and just focus on the 15 teamer.
What about you, Jay? You've been in the 12ers, these OCs for a long time. Obviously, even before we even worked together, I'd always been like, damn, Boom's in my league again, and always got a battle with you there near the top of the standings, unless we have one of those like outlier teams where everybody gets hurt. Happens to everybody. But you're also a good 15-team player. How are you in 12-team mode separately from 15, and how do you navigate through those things?
Yeah, early in the draft process, I do the 15-team draft champions to get used to the player pool and to kind of do my research there. A little expensive research, but it's really valuable. Then I do anywhere from 3 to 4 online championships. I have one more TBD that I might do as my last draft after all the mains, just to kind of do a YOLO draft. But I try to finish all my 12s before jumping into any 15s because it is so difficult to jump back and forth, as Nelson was alluding to. Mm-hmm. The player pool, you all of a sudden, this guy's good in an OC, this guy's good in a DC, this guy's good in a main. Yeah, you got to be 15-team centric when you're doing the mains and a 12-team centric in the online championship. So really hard to bounce back and forth for me.
So here we go, kicking off on the clock, and we didn't tell you that, or maybe we did in one of the posts, but Jason is the first pick. He's got the first pick on the clock. Nelson is third. This is a public draft board, so I do not know the rest of the people there. Oh, I should take off the big sticker. There we go. Do not need to see the names of people just in case. But if you are in this draft and you want to come forward and let us talk about your team for good or for bad, please do let us know.
Well, you did ask me, Vlad, if I was going Witt or Otani at 1, and I guess I just put my money where my mouth was.
It's the toughest. It's the toughest call of all. I mean, talk about it. Why Witt over Otani for you here?
For me, it's Otani, as good as he is. That 59 steals with him pitching again this year, I believe is going to be a big outlier. I would put him closer, nowhere near over 30, in my opinion. I could be dead wrong, but I think there's some more days off with the hitting now that he'll be pitching. I think he's going to be amazing and an easy 1B to the 1A, but I just love Bobby Witt, and he's my number one player.
I think when I wrote about it, even did a little video on it, it's almost like maybe sleep better at night with a Bobby Witt, because when you have those outside influences, I mean, things like the pitching and just maybe getting out of rhythm. I mean, we've seen Otani perform at a high level at both before. That does, last season was the perfect storm where he didn't have to pitch. He just concentrated on hitting and was essentially the best hitter ever. I mean, no one had ever gone 50-50 before. There is some news that dropped today that his, I guess, getting back into the pitching is slowing down a little bit. So they pulled back a little on it to get him on a rhythm and hitting. So it kind of projects out to probably where we think it would be anyways, which is June. But honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if at some point they're just like, oh, we're just going to have him hit. I mean, it's possible.
Yeah, he's so competitive, though. He's going to want to get back on that mound and show that he's that two-way player. And I have a hard time believing the Dodgers are going to be able to manipulate what Shohei wants. It's kind of what Shohei wants, Shohei's going to get. But he's so good. Nelson, did you have a tough choice there at 3 between Judge and Ramirez and Ellie, or is that pretty slam dunk for you?
It was between Judge and Ellie. So I've actually done quite a few of these OCs, and I haven't been in position to get Judge or Ellie. So I've had the number 1 pick. I've taken Bobby Witt, but every other KDS I've gotten kind of like towards my last preference. So I've been drafting like middle to the back end of these. So I wanted to get Judge, and then I'm hoping if I do a couple over the weekend that I can get Ellie one time in one of these.
Yeah, it feels like you got to have one share of Ellie just in case he just goes nuclear, but I'm Judge all day as well. Vlad, what are you doing with Gunnar right now?
I'm not taking him at 8. I think in our rankings, I moved him probably a little bit beyond where typically where he has been going, at least today, because now we're tracking these drafts on a day-to-day basis. But I moved him around the turn. So around, I think 14 to 16. I know that I know that he went 11 today in one place. And then I don't know if I'm going to get in trouble for saying this, but Mike Mager had a draft today and he got him at 2-6.
Oh my goodness.
And I think that's a 15 teamer he's doing. So,
oh my goodness,
it's going to be a wide range. We've talked about it, Jay. We talked on the last show about how you got that hell of a deal on Gunnar last year in those 2 days where he was dinged up in spring training, and so you got him at like in the 4th or 5th round as opposed to his typical 3rd round ADP.
Yeah, I mean at some point you just say I'm taking Gunnar Henderson here. It doesn't matter the injury risk because he's the best player on the board. And I just saw a tweet today. Gunnar Henderson 2nd round pick incoming in the OCs, and I didn't think it'd be in the 15s though. So I guess it'll be interesting if he is going to miss opening day, what that looks like come, a couple weeks or, even this week with Nelson drafting on, you said Tuesday, Nelson, you're doing your main?
Yeah. Yep.
That's exciting. Did it fill yet?
It did. Yep.
Nelson, can you tell him the story of you got to see the actual gut in action? Tell him. Yeah.
So one thing I wanted to say, I think what I think is going to happen with Gunnar is the main events. I think he's going to slip to the 1-2 turn and make it into possibly the early 2nd round of these early main events, because I think $1,800 versus sinking, a $350 is 2 different things. So I think the higher the dollar amount for an entry fee, I think people are going to be a little more cautious with that. But earlier this week, I had called Vlad, and I was going through my KDS, and we're just talking about, you know, players and things like that, and you know, where you want to be this year, and if there is, you know, a sweet spot. And he goes, you know, how are you going to set it? And I go, I'm probably going to go like, you know, 1 through 5, something like that. There's a couple of guys that I wouldn't mind having. And Vlad goes, well, by the way, just so you know, you're going to get the 1 pick. And I was like, you know, haha, like, he goes, no, seriously. He goes, I have a feeling. I got a gut feeling. And sure enough, you know, I get the email last night when KDS ran, and I have the number 1 pick. And so I text Vlad, and I'm like, wow. I'm like, okay. I was like, first time all year, you know, all drafting season, I got my number 1 preference.
Is there anything better than opening that email to see where you pick in a main, and then on top of that being number 1? Like, that's like double Christmas right there.
It is.
Unless it was last year. You got Acuna or Strider.
Can we not bring negativity to the world, Vlad? Come on.
Yeah,
we're positive vibes tonight. Come on, it's Friday night. We're drafting.
Friday night, keeping it positive. So we're here through the middle of the second round, and I mean, you know, that one spot where you were at, Nelson, obviously, if you go Judge or you go Ellie, you're starting your build with extreme power or extreme speed, and then a little bit of power as well. Obviously, with Ellie, a little bit more batting average downside, more batting average upside with Judge. Other than Gunnar in that first round, I think that looks, you know, that kind of give or take, but those 6 through 12 are most, you know, for the most part, interchangeable. You got the, you know, the pitchers. The first pitchers are usually going off the board a little bit lower or later than they would in a 15-teamer. That's why you've got Paul Skeens and Tariq Skubal there going at 13 and 15. And then Crochet kind of landing into where we probably feel he's going to be, especially if he keeps doing what he's doing.
On deck.
That was an early Logan Gilbert.
It's, you know, these drafts have sometimes just like a mind of their own where, you know, somebody grabs that first pitcher, that, you know, that number 3 guy, the Crochet, Gilbert, or Wheeler, a little early, and then it sets off a chain of events where people start going pitching crazy.
You are up.
We got Dr. Doom here. Well, we'll do this in a minute.
We got our boy Brandon Waddell in the chat too. What's up, Wad?
What's going on, Wad? All right, talk us through this pick here, Nelson.
Yeah, so with going so my plan was, up until like 10 minutes ago, I wasn't sure if I was gonna go Judge or Ellie. But my plan was, if I go Ellie, I know that I need to kind of be aware of my batting average and not take too much risk. With Judge and having the power, I knew that coming back around, I like to stay balanced throughout the draft, where I'm not getting, you know, too far away from speed or power. So with this pick,
8 seconds, by the way.
Yep. With this pick, I'm actually going to go with my boy Jaron Duran.
Nice.
And so batting average still solid, and I get a little bit of speed now on the team.
He had to wind it down for effect, Vlad. He knew exactly what he was doing.
I know.
He's a
I just got
professional.
nervous. Getting
the shakes over here.
I think Nelson, you probably did like a dozen of the football ones, right? This past summer, spring.
Live streams.
Yeah, you did a bunch.
Like 15 of them.
Wow.
Like that.
Okay. All right, you are the resident expert in these streets. I should have known better. All right, one pick there. The premier, the elite catcher, William Contreras. As far as comparing to last year's numbers, where do you see him, like, you know, compared to last year, like 110% of last year, 90%, 80%?
I'd be excited with 80% of his numbers. He is, I think, a big advantage, especially in a 12-team league with the 2 catchers. If you can get him to kind of start off your squad at the catcher, you got some speed, you got batting average, you got RBIs. You know, I think my last draft, I got Joey Bart as my number 2, and you know that all of a sudden becomes a suck. So, trying to figure out who I'm going here. I don't know. All right, I know I'm going.
All right, there you go.
You are on deck.
Strong start. Bobby Witt, Contreras, and Harper. You cover your infield, 3 of your 4 infield spots, which is pretty solid. And then just, I guess, kind of know the direction you're going for the most part with pitchers, outfielders, relievers.
And I historically don't mind waiting on outfield, especially in the OCs. In the 15 teams, it's a little different, but I like to maneuver a little bit. I don't push positions. I try to take the best player, especially through the first 7-8 rounds, regardless of position. I have been going the top pitchers early. One of the big 5, I call them, with Wheeler, Gilbert, Skeen, Skubal, and Crochet. So if one of them are sitting there, I'd take them. But first draft, I've started 3 hitters, so this is kind of a new build for me.
All right, and we are, of course.
You're up.
Well, let's do this in a second here. Nelson on the clock. Another hitter. You going pitcher?
Actually, typically, in these OCs, right here, I would go hitter normally, but I'm going to take Zach Wheeler at this spot. I don't have him on any teams so far, and I think this is a good price for him.
Yeah, I like it, especially in relation to where Gilbert and Crochet went. I feel like those 3 kind of go together. And as far as year-to-year consistency, I mean, it's a short list. It's Zach Wheeler and it's Corbin Burns. Those guys have just been incredible for the last half decade, returning $20 plus in value. You're getting tremendous ratios, strikeouts. Even if there's a little bit of a dip, it's still really, really solid and a nice anchor for your squad. So very, very nice.
So Nelson alluded to this earlier, Vlad, about the KDS in the 12s. What did you guys kind of figure out, or were you talking 15s, or does it really matter for you guys as far as how you're setting your preferences, 12s to 15s?
I like to draft. I'm happy to draft from anywhere. I think that, I don't know. I mean, I'm less worried about positional kind of runs and things like that. In a 12, I'm less worried about it in a 12 than a 15. I think sometimes some really nice things fall when you're at the 10, 11. I even like the 11 more than the 12 because I do like to play against the turn. I like to kind of, play chicken and figure out who the person at the end is going to take, and then, kind of play that little game of chicken there. So I'm really fine with anything, but I will tell you, like me personally, the 4 through 9, 4 through 10 guys, to me, they're all sort of similar. I have preferences, but at the end of the day, I think I'd be happy with most of them.
What about you, Nelson?
I try to map it out at least for like the first 3 rounds and figure out if I'm in the first half of the draft, middle, or back end. It's important to me who I'm going to take as my like first round pick, but I try to combine the first 3 rounds. So I'm looking at those 3 players combined. What gives me the most value? What 3 players do I like the most? So even though I want to start off with, Bobby Witt or Ohtani, I kind of go through the process of, okay, if I'm in the middle and I want to start Soto or Corbin Carroll, or do I want to go to the back end and, take like a Vlad Guerrero, something like that, and maybe a pitcher? I try to figure out, okay, what start do I like the most and what gives me like the best foundation. And then that's kind of how I set my KDS from there. And
right.
That exercise, what I found is I'm okay drafting from the front, middle, or the back end this year based on ADP. But I know when the main events start that pitching is going to get pushed up. So I am giving that some consideration too.
Does it change for you in the mains compared to the online championships?
It does. Yeah. I'm much more pitching focused in the main events because what I've noticed, this is just for me personally, historically, my teams that have performed well, I usually end up with like 2 stud pitchers that I took within like the first 5 rounds. And then I typically try to get a one closer that I can hang my hat on. The teams that don't perform well, either the starting pitching was a bust, or I felt like I was taking hitters that were of value and I pushed pitching back, and I haven't done a good job of, rounding out my pitching staff.
Right.
Yeah, I think there's a little bit. There's obviously a big learning curve with NFBC, even for somebody that's played fantasy for a long time. I mean, I remember my first year, I think it was 2008, and when I first came to a main event was 2014. I mean, obviously, it's a lot has changed since, but I remember actually running out of options of guys I wanted in the last few rounds, and this is a draft with 450 players that are total drafted. And I just remember scrambling, and it wasn't a really good year. But the thinking that you're just going to sort of punt pitching and wait. And I know that All-Star Fantasy Baseball All-Star streamer in the comment section, Uncle Ted, does believe that you can wait on pitching, but it really is a different ball game in the NFBC because, I mean, that year that Blake Snell won the Cy Young, I believe it was 2018 maybe. The main event champ had him that year, but it wasn't just Snell and just a bunch of late guys. He still had the big anchor, whoever it was, Scherzer, Kershaw, I forget, and another stud, and hit it all throughout. Same thing with Phil Dussault, the year that he won. Strong pitching early, and then hit on all the late round gems, including Robbie Ray. So you can't get away from the strong pitching.
Yeah, pitching in the 15s is just so critical. You get behind, and there's no catching up. So I think it's just about building that base. And you can try to punt it down the road, but man, it's uncomfortable, and you have to get pretty lucky to hit, to even wait until rounds 4 to get your first starter.
Looking at this board, I'm foreseeing a few scenarios where the teams are starting early hitters, and maybe a few people have similar strategies where you're going to see like a sea of yellow. I mean, obviously not talking about your team per se, Jason, and then obviously Nelson, you grabbed a pitcher, but team 6, 3 hitters, team 8, 3 hitters, team 12, 4 to start. So at some point, they're going to have to get pitching.
Yellow brick road.
Yellow brick road.
In a 12-teamer, I think you can get away with that type of build. In the 15-teamer, I think it's a totally different ball game, and I think you see a lot more runs at a position, whether it's starting pitching, closer. So I think it is important to kind of within my rule is within the first 5-6 rounds, I need at least 2 starters. I need 2 guys that I can kind of like be my anchors.
We did the first of these beat leagues with Beat Lucas Beery on Thursday night, and he waited a while for his first pitcher. His ace was Shota Imanaga, but at the end of the day, I mean, he ended up rounding out a pretty good staff with Imanaga, Freddie Peralta, Luis Castillo, Sonny Gray, Pepio, Chris Sanchez, Yu Darvish. So yeah, you're right. In a 12-teamer, you can get away with it a bit more.
Are we going to look back and just look at Rafael Devers' draft costs this draft season and just think it was ridiculous how cheap he was?
Nothing's wrong with his shoulders. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ask Nelson, the Boston guy.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. He had all off season to heal or have surgery, and he's still not. I don't know. I would start getting a little bit worried, come next week, and we're not seeing him in games.
If he beats me, he beats me. I'm just fully out on him at this point, and it's just been that way for me for a couple of months. It's just I'm not not a straight up vibes drafter, but vibes do matter, of course, because you got the shoulders, you got the issue with position he's going to play, and just I don't know, not great analysis here, but just not feeling Devers.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it's gut. He's such a good hitter. It just feels like we're going to look back and he's going to go 35, 120, 100 runs, and just like, man, what were we thinking? All this concerns about third base and injuries, but there is a risk there. So I get the draft cost, but he just looks like that guy that you look back at the end of the year and be like, man, he was a steal.
The one thing I will say about the Boston Red Sox is I think they're one of those teams that doesn't really have a middle ground. They are built. It's kind of like sloppily put together, a lot of reclamation projects. But to me, it seems like it's either going to fall apart completely or it's a team of destiny. But we'll talk about. I want to talk about that in a second after Nelson's pick. On the clock, Judge Duran, Zach Wheeler. We got the first closer off the board with Devin Williams. And closers go a little later in these drafts.
I think I'm going to take a closer here.
Here we go.
This is kind of a hard thing, is which one now? Hard to go wrong with Class A. That guy does it every year.
Yeah, I sent a post earlier today because I'm in the middle of the finishing up the relief pitcher article, the tier series, averaging 44 saves a year over the last 3 years. ERA, the next closest to him is Hader over that 3-year span, and it's 20% less saves. And even Alexis Diaz is 10th on that list of saves leaders the last 3 years. He's 80% less save. I mean, it's insane how amazing Class A has been. But we'll, the playoffs, there's a slight concern. Maybe it's nothing. But, he had a little bit of a rough playoff, but he's been legit the best closer by a wide margin for the last 3 years.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Give me Jacob deGrom at pick 48. Thank you.
Oh, that's
Have
nice.
some fun with that.
How many?
All right, you're a DeGrom guy. I got to ask.
I'm a DeGrom guy in a 12, Nelson, for sure, because the replacement cost, it's so easily replaceable. If I can go get 120 elite innings from DeGrom in a 12, I think he's worth that pick. And if he pops a 150, 160 innings, it's going to be a league winner. In a 15, it'd have to be a discount. I don't think I'm pushing him up harder, but I just think he got the elbow fixed. And so I've kind of dying on this hill that I believe he might be safer than Paul Skeens this year. And I'm very much in the minority on that, but Skeens is throwing 101 and hasn't had an elbow issue, where DeGrom got it fixed. So it might blow up in my face, but in a 12, I'm definitely willing to take that risk.
And the Pirates aren't taking it easy on Skeens. They just let him go. DeGrom is really getting some good treatment, which can help him kind of make it through the whole season, perhaps getting a little bit of a late go in spring, not for any health reasons. And then he's going to start at the back end of the rotation. They're going to kind of take it easy from him, but per start, you're going to get, even if it's 5-6 innings, I mean, he's going to have some double-digit K outings, beautiful ratios. That's a nice start, man. That's a really nice start there with Rooker. We'll talk about that here after Nelson's pick.
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out if I'm going to go a hitter here. I haven't done this all year, double tapping closers. I don't know if I want to do that right now.
You'd be setting and forgetting, that's for sure. There's probably a lot of good stuff on the board.
Yeah.
Anyone worried? By the way, sorry on the stream here. I'll try to fix this for next time. I'm not a professional producer, but that this cuts off on you, Jason. So please don't take it personally when I show these things. Anyone worried about Jordan's knees?
Yes. Yeah. A 25-year-old or 26, 27-year-old with bad knees is concerning, but at the draft cost, you have to click that. I mean, 300 batting average. He's got a 40 homer, 140 RBI season in there with a 300 batting average. You just don't find those.
I like Nelson, I think any build can work for somebody that just kind of has that like natural draft roster construction skills. And when you know where the tier drop offs are and kind of know what you want in this format, I like this start because you've got, you have a chance to kind of have one of those really elite pitching teams in the overall, right? So strong ratios off the bat. You got two guys that if they stay healthy, two closers are going to be incredible. You could get 80 saves there with 2.5 ERAs and 1 whips and 15 wins from Wheeler. That's really nice.
Yeah. So typically, like I said, I've done a few of these already, and it's not my typical build. I usually take one guy that I can hang my hat on, and then I kind of push it back for my second closer. But at the same time, I don't want all my teams looking the same. So, as I'm setting lineups and going through during the season, it's like, oh, okay, I got the one elite closer, and then I've got this, scrub that's about to lose his job, So if, these guys stay healthy, they should be good to go. So I do a few of these. I want to build them a little bit different.
Yeah, you do too many drafts, you start looking at the same players on every team. It's like, how do I differentiate? So I think you almost have to force it a little bit, right, Nelson?
Yeah, for sure. You got to get out of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
I had a question here earlier that I posted before, but Dr. Doom, were you all taking Kirby now? Some bad Cole news dropped. We probably won't get too specific because these guys haven't been off the board, but just from what I'm seeing and where I put them in the rankings, like it's tough. It's really tough to click on them. On Grayson, they're definitely nowhere close what their ADP was yesterday. But I think for a lot of people, there's a price. I don't think you draft, you don't take two of them on one team, and especially like not in a 15-teamer in a main event. But if they're one of the guys that you believe in, that it won't be like long term, like the fact that Kirby doesn't have structural damage is, I guess, a positive. And so maybe that will be your one or two stashes. But other than that, you got to kind of pick your spots on the stashes. That might mean no Roman Anthony for you later, or Christian Campbell or Bubba Chandler or whatever, rookie you might want.
Did you see what Randy Haynes said in his 8 p.m. Eastern OC tonight? Kirby went in the late 4th round.
That's
late 4th. Did not get the memo.
Where he has been going.
Somebody missed the memo.
Yeah.
Like
I think, to answer that question, at least for me personally, they're a fade for me. I just think that there's other pitchers out there that could be just as good as them, and I don't need to inherit that headache with guys that are already experiencing soreness or have some type of elbow issue or whatever. I don't want that headache to start the season.
Very true. All right, here we go. Around the turn, 2 San Diego pitchers, 2 guys that were top 10 in strikeout rate last year, Dylan Cease and Michael King. And they added Nick Pivetta to the rotation. Yu Darvish is still there. Actually had a pretty sneaky good season last year. And then I don't know. I hadn't looked in the last couple of days if Kyle Hart has pitched. He's the guy from the KBO, was essentially their version of the Cy Young winner last year. And he's signed a 1-year, $1 million deal trying to compete for that 5th spot with a bunch of guys that I don't think are all that good. Randy Vasquez, etc. Oh, about the Boston thing. I mean, if you just look at the team talent-wise, pitching, it's really stacked. It could be a big boom or bust. That's what I really think, and it's going to come down to health. You already kind of have you got the shoulders with with Devers. You got Tristan Cassis already had something. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe it was just like an illness. And then Abreu is going to start the season. Wilyer Abreu is going to start the season on the IL. Trevor Story always finds a way. Obviously Liam Hendricks is always a concern. So I don't know. Again, sorry, I wasn't supposed to be negative today. Let's keep it positive.
You were positively negative.
It started off on the right foot, and then Vlad's like, "Yeah, this is a walking wounded team here."
Vlad has got some bad juju on the Red Sox this year.
But they're like one of my favorite AL teams for whatever reason. I think it's like the uniforms or something. But here's the thing. Alex Bregman is there to just fix everything. Like,
Man, that got me fired up. That press conference he had, that absolutely was awesome.
That guy's a leader.
Yeah.
Brandon loves the team 10 start. Tucker, Guerrero Jr., Burns, Abrams, Hernandez, and Altuve. Got a little bit of everything. Speed, power, veteran presence.
I like that team.
Definitely. It's a good build so far. You have to find the strikeouts.
I think that's our guy, MLB Dream, head of all. He's probably one of the best bettors around, like in the world as far as baseball betting goes. MLB Dream on X. Make sure you follow him. So he's tracking the stuff day to day. He's my futures and in season betting go-to. And so I think that's him. He said Kyle Hart pitched today, so we'll have to check on that. Not that Kyle, but this isn't even a draft that Kyle Hart gets drafted in. So I'm going too far.
Hey, that's my 29th round pick, Vlad. You just ruined it. Well, that just ruined my dream of the Contreras brothers.
Yeah, this is kind of a new price range for him. As a matter of fact, we should probably pull up ADP because now it's changed a little bit. We'll look at ADP in the month of March. So the last, 8 days. We'll see how many OCs we have there. Seven days. 16 drafts, 16 OCs, and Contreras's ADP is 70, min of 62, max of 90. So you were close.
Thought I had a chance. I had a team name picked out and everything.
Cubby Knoll, old friend. Burns seems pricey, but maybe I'm a prude. Or a Cubby fan.
You are up.
Got a good team going on this year. I like that offense.
Let's see. Into the third for Burns. That doesn't seem too pricey. It's probably about where he should go. Maybe a couple picks early, but Burns or Raggins. Where are you at on that, Vlad?
I got Reagan's just a couple spots ahead of him. I think he's got Cy Young flavor going on.
What about Blake Snell? This is probably a dumb question.
No, I don't put in. I'm even harder on the Dodgers, I think, or I feel. They're all in the same area. It depends like what day of the week or what I'm drafting, but I think both Snell and Reagans have very high upside, like top 3 overall upside, but I think Reagans is the guy that is more likely to get 190 innings, and so that's a tiebreaker for me.
Man, get Junior in back-to-back drafts. I guess I got to take it.
There it is, one of the big helium picks. Let me see. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I think I got some power.
I would say so.
Wow. Now I got to figure out speed.
Over under 255 batting average for Brent Rooker this year.
I think you and I were having this conversation earlier today. I think the A's players in general, you got to go on the higher side of what their projections are on batting average, just because they're not in that ballpark anymore. I don't have the data in front of me, but how many outs they lost because that big foul territory. There's got to be some more opportunities to get the ball in play in Sacramento. So I believe I would say the over for me.
Very nice. Yeah, it's going to be so fun to see how that park plays, how Steinbrenner Field plays for the Tampa Rays, and the lefties there, and for the pitchers too, right? Because there's some concern for some of those guys who are all a bunch of studs. Well, damn, Nelson, I see what you're cooking here.
Schwelly
with Glasnow and Wheeler. Man, it's a nice combo. It's a lot of wins.
I got to build it differently. I haven't really in any of my OCs, if I can, maybe one. Otherwise, I haven't really gone pitching heavy. So I this is kind of, I'm forcing myself to just build a different looking type of team. And I think when you start off with Judge and then you got Durant, who I think is a plus in batting average. He's got really good contact skills, so I expect that batting average to kind of stay right around there. I think I can afford that because then as the draft gets later, I don't feel like I have to be picky with some of these guys that carry, more batting average risk.
And worst comes to worst, Nelson, if you combine our teams and do an FTN best ball, we're going to dominate.
Yeah, yep, exactly.
Yeah, I was just noticing that we can't project wins, right? Because Zach Wheeler of the Phillies, who usually gets you 14, 15 wins a season, could just run bad, run poor, right? Like remember DeGrom a few years ago, or they're just certain pitchers that they're on good teams and just they don't get the run support. They get screwed. And then you got something like Tariq Skubal last year who had 18 wins. I think it was like 25% of the team's wins were his. And obviously the Tigers were better last year. But like that's a hard one for me to project. No matter how good Skubal is, I don't, no one's really going to project 18 wins for him. But you can have, there's like a not a threshold, but there's just, you just took starters on 3 teams that are, I think, all have 90 plus wins, in win totals. And so that's a good chance that you could be like over the 12 win threshold on those 3 guys. And that's really good. And on top of that, you got 2 ace closers. So it's nice.
Yeah. That was something else that I was talking about. Vlad, was it you and I think we were talking about this actually with pitching and how the wins category is so, there's so much
volatile.
variance to it. It's
Yeah.
so finicky. And I was thinking about it, I was like, if everything's equal with the player and my player evaluation, I'm going to take the pitcher on the better team, right? The offense that is projected to score more runs, because the hopes there is that, I get a few more wins out of that pitcher. So that's something I keep in mind when I'm drafting and I'm between like 2 or 3 pitchers. Okay, which pitcher is on the best, has the best offense,
Yep.
And there's something to that even with offense, I think, Nelson, the drafting a player in the better offense. It's kind of similar to football with that, you get these pitchers on these bad teams and, the Marlins are a good example. They have some good arms, but man, how many wins can you get versus somebody on the Braves? And then offensive players too. It's like you get in a lineup. There's obviously pockets of value with bad teams, but you can get a lot more at bats, a lot more RBI opportunities on good teams too. So it is kind of fascinating how to build a team through good or bad offenses.
Yeah. And to a certain degree, I use that, type of scenario with football, where you look at it and you're like, okay, I like this receiver, but who the heck is throwing him the ball? And, if it's a bad quarterback, it's kind of like, okay, that sinks the whole offense, and if the play caller, the offensive coordinator is not the greatest, that ruins the whole offense. So we see that all the time. So I think that matters.
Shane Waldron on line 1.
Terrible.
Oh God, just amazingly bad. There's something weird. I mean, we can get on a long tangent. We're doing a baseball draft, but these guys that get recycled in the NFL coaching circle, it blows my mind how they ever get another job with their performance.
And with the with the pitching, also there's the element of the bullpens too. That sometimes when we're looking at starting pitchers, we may not automatically factor in. Like think about these Padres guys, where if they can just get through their 5 or 6 innings with a couple inning lead, they are much more likely to secure that win when you've got guys like Jeremiah Estrada and Jason Adam. Per our filth scores, our filth rating has the best pitch in baseball last year, his slider. Ryan Helsley's was second. And that's just such a big, difference, that little bit of sense of security, as opposed to somebody like, the Marlins, one of their best relievers, Andrew Nardi's like out for a while. They, outside of, even Calvin Faucher, to I'm not even sure.
Meet the
I don't even know.
Fockers.
I thought I knew how, but him, Jesus Tinoco, Andrew Bender, like they're good, but they're sort of back end guys. Who are the middle guys? Like if these guys are coming in after, they're going to get shelled, and Sandy Alcantara, all that hard work he did or Ryan Weathers is going to get blasted, and so that's why these guys are going to probably end up with single digit win totals.
Mm-hmm.
I got to mention, by the way, hadn't yet. We are all part of FTN Fantasy. FTN Fantasy, we have amazing content everywhere. Tools, rankings, projections. We're updating them daily. Everything down to even like Underdog and DraftKings best ball projections. Those are also being updated quite frequently. And our new custom rankings and projections tool just came out. It's sick. You could switch projection sources from my VDP to the FTN data models, and you can set up your hitting pitching splits. You can pick for your custom leagues with OBP. We've done holds projections, everything you name it. So export it, get it in your draft. So yeah, it's late here. It's 8:41. FTNFantasy.com. Nelson, Jason will be with you all year. The rest of the great team. Spring 15 is the code. 15% off if you're not in there.
Here comes the yellow brick road.
I forced the issue, Vlad.
Now you get to pick off value, Nelson, because you just kick hitter after hitter. And if everybody else is going pitching, this is where you can, zig when everybody's zagging.
Yep.
All right.
And it's just a matter of who I want.
Pick 90. That's pretty good. I think that's a good spot there for say, a Suzuki. Teammates got one pitcher. I'm sorry, not one pitcher. One starting pitcher, two closers. We've got a few teams here with two closers. The team next to you, Nelson, also did that Devin Williams, Mason Miller combo.
You are on deck.
Man, that's nice. Those are really nice. And then Garrett Cole, no discount on Garrett Cole here, going in the 90s. So we don't know if the person hasn't seen the news and they're still fine with that price. Not sure.
You are up.
Ooh,
Whoa.
fired him up. Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, a new min.
was needed.
A new min live. It has to be a min. There's no way that's not a min for Xavier Edwards. Though, previous to this, just in this week alone, and Xavier Edwards has a 141 ADP. His min is 110, max 174. That's just in 16 OCs in the month of March. But that's definitely the new min there at 93.
Okay.
Jason and I did discover on one of our episodes of the FTN Fantasy Baseball podcast that Xavier Edwards has never hit under 300 in any of his seasons in any level.
That's a little false. There was one stop that it was under, but it was not a long stop. So I think it was 9 out of 10 or something like it. It's an impressive stat. So I misspoke on that, but the guy is elite bat to ball skills. It is not Billy Hamilton. It is not a normal rabbit that gets the bat knocked out of his hands. No power, but guy can get on base.
By the way, the Marlins, Xavier Edwards says he wants to steal 60 bases. And Vidal Brujan, who played for the Marlins last year, he's on the Cubs now. He's talking about how he's going to be running a little bit more. And he mentioned something about how the Marlins really let him run. So I wonder if they didn't let him run because of his caught stealing, or they don't let everyone run. I think maybe it's the former.
You know what's interesting? I wanted to ask Jason the Freddie Peralta pick. So, see, that's how I draft. I look at ADP, but if there's a pitcher that I like and he's got a lower ADP than a handful of them that go before him, it is what it is. I'm just going to take the guy that I believe in, and I think he did that with Peralta because there is a couple of other pitchers that are higher up in ADP than Peralta. So I wanted to get Jason's thoughts on that.
Yeah. At the end of the day, you got to get the guys that you have ranked higher. ADP is just a tool. and you use it to kind of see how you can get the best value. Being at the wrap, I don't believe Peralta was coming back, and he was my highest ranked pitcher in that scenario. There's a couple other pitchers, but with starting out DeGrom, I thought Peralta was a perfect complement to DeGrom, and ADP did not really matter because I don't believe there was any chance he was getting back to me at the last pick around 10.
Yep. No, that is probably correct that he was not coming back.
I love that Bregman pick. I think there's going to be some big value there this year.
Yeah, I'm betting on that. His career numbers at Fenway Park are pretty nice. So it'll be interesting to see if he can, now that he's in a Sox uniform, if he can put together a big season.
I'm looking at how Roster Resource lays it out now for the projected lineups. They've got Duran, then Devers, lefty, then Bregman, Casas, Story. But I wonder if Bregman might hit a little bit in the 2-hole. Duran, Bregman, you might have that nice little combo there. You'll have some good weeks, some good nights.
Yes, sir.
Can I ask you guys this question? Because I do this, but I don't try to go out of my way. But I'll try to do like mini stacks as part of like good offenses.
Yep.
Do you guys take that into consideration at all, or you just kind of draft, take the best player available?
Go ahead,
It's
Vlad.
part of the consideration if there are certain teams that I'm targeting that I feel are undervalued, where I'm kind of getting an edge. I think it was like 2015 or something. It was a year where, for whatever reason, I just felt that the betting market was under on the Diamondbacks, and there were a bunch of guys like Adam Eaton, David Peralta that were going all like in the 300s in the drafts. And so I was taking some of the early players and then mixing in some of the later ADP guys, and some of those times it pays off. If you did that in 2021 with the Blue Jays, with the ballpark in Dunedin, you got, if you happen to land on those 4 main hitters, it was like Guerrero, Bichette, Teoscar, and Simeon. All 4 of those guys earned first round value, which is just incredible. So if you kind of these, baseball is one of those games where it's linked, right? Like you play DFS and you win with your offbeat stack that just happened to score 12 runs that day. So yeah, having that correlation I think is good, and especially in a contest like this where you have several thousand people in it.
Mm-hmm. How about you?
I'm on the opposite end. I'm always looking at best player. I might fall into some accidental stacks, but it kind of circles back to the conversation earlier about getting guys on good offenses. So if there's an offense you're targeting, that creates a stack. But I'm not specifically picking out a Red Sox stack or a Padres stack or a Dodger stack based off of the team. I'm looking for best player in each round, my highest rated, how it rounds out the team, and if it falls on the same team, so be it.
Almost like they're not like intentional stacks. You just kind of know like maybe the offenses you like better, and if you're at a place in the 15th round where you're deciding between a player that's a good value that you like, that's you have other players on that team in your team build earlier versus someone else, and they're both similar and they both fill a need, then you can maybe use that as a tiebreaker. One time, does that mean that's
that's Andrew
Guilds? That's Andrew Geller.
Right. Guilds.
He's the only one that spells one time the correct way.
I know, but I saw AG, and at first I thought was it Anthony
Andrew
Gialdi
Geller?
pretending to be Andrew, but it is Andrew Geller. That's Guilds. That's his real name.
Hope to see you in Vegas this year, buddy.
Andrew Geller is the winner of either the 23. You can tell us, but he won the online championship a couple years ago.
And runner-up the previous year. He had one of the best 3-year stretches probably in the history of the NFBC. Yeah.
For him.
Yeah, at the end of the year, we at FTN, we do a show with all the winners of overall winners. We had Clark Olson, who, by the way, when we go to Vegas in 2 weeks, is going to be inducted into the NFBC Hall of Fame. So, and then of course we had one of the overall winners from last season is part of the FTN team, Mike Mager, auction champion. And Mike loves when I mention that. For those who don't know, Mike, I'm being sarcastic. Apologies, Mike does not like me to mention that.
Deep down, he really does like it. He just doesn't like mentioning it.
Yeah. Very modest gentleman. Your friend from NorCal, Brandon Waddell, wants to know, does Jason know outfield is a position?
You only need 5 of them. I don't know what the issue is. I got 20 more rounds.
That's true. You haven't run out of picks yet.
Christian.
I was going to say, Vlad, Brandon Waddell, shout out to him. He is one of the best 12-team players I know. Guy just kills it. I think his winning percentage is over 60% in leagues that he enters. So maybe I should listen to him a little more.
Brandon is one of the best 12-team players around. I try to avoid him to help my win rate. Christian Walker goes at the towards the end of the 9th. The oblique injury is not as scary as we had originally thought, and so he'll be sort of eased back in and is still on target for opening day.
Yeah, it's still, I don't know. I still want a discount on him a little bit.
Well, you had the oblique last year. You got an oblique scare this year. I mean, it's almost like you fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. It's coming again, it feels like. But you got the Crawford oblique.
No, 3 bleak?
The old Trey Bleak. But, you got the Crawford boxes. You got a good lineup. There is a payoff there. But I'd be shocked if there's not at least a minimum oblique issue this year, because that just doesn't go away once you start having that. Mike Trout at pick 112. How the mighty have fallen.
Yeah, and we're just talking about the last week because Mike Trout has been popping up into the top 100. And so I guess since he went 112 here, that must mean he did not homer today.
So Jason, to piggyback off of, fool me once, the whole thing that you just said, are you guys in on Trout this year? Do you guys, believe that he could stay healthy, or are you guys just, nah, he's always hurt?
In a 15 in a main, I'm going to have a hard time clicking that button. I'm much more apt, again, with replacement cost and an OC, to do it in a 12 and seeing if I can ride that hot hand. On a side note, a funny little tidbit that just came into my head. It's funny that the Angels had Tim Salmon and Mike Trout. So they're just instead of the Angels, they're the fish.
A bunch of fish. Yeah, so obviously things change a lot, but when we first started putting content out, or started drafting and researching, I was on no way on Mike Trout. That's just not happening. The lower body issues all these years, and for me it's a little different than DeGrom. Like, it's crazy that I'm more willing to take DeGrom in the 3rd or 4th than Trout in the 10th. It doesn't make kind of common sense, but I just did not believe. I just don't and it wasn't even a believe it till I see it. It was one of those things where I was thinking, when it comes to spring training and he looks healthy and he looks good, I'm not going to let myself buy back in. I literally told myself that. I almost put a note on it. And in my last OC, I drafted Mike Trout. But you nailed it, Jason. It's because it was a 12-teamer. I'm much more likely to take that chance, where I feel like there's no real replacement value for Trout, but this is the 10th round. Like, I can get around it easier and still compete, as opposed to 15. And if it does hit, it's magical.
I'm just glad somebody took Bo Bichette here in round 10, so I didn't have to make that choice, Vlad.
Long history with you and Bo. Possible leadoff man having a hot spring.
He's either leadoff or cleanup, right? It's going to be a good spot either way.
Yep. And he's been, last couple of games, I didn't see today, but he's been leading off and just getting on base, getting doubles, singles. Mason Wynn, that's the highest I've seen him in a while. I'm in a 400 DC where we just passed the 10th round, and it's like pick 165, and he's still on the board. And I think, he's not having a good spring. Again, it's only been a week or whatever it is, but here he goes 120.
I'm probably going to click this button. Did Brian Reynolds die? Like, why is he still there?
This is late for him.
Yeah,
Because it's an OC and he's boring.
Boring is profitable.
You are on deck.
I just making sure there was no obituary news or anything like that. That he died.
No. That's a great pick. I'll check on the min-max on that.
You are up.
Yeah, 113 was his previous, so you almost 10 after. Very nice.
Yes, please.
The live stream drafts get crazy sometimes. Don't know.
Making a statement.
Who's hopping in, and yeah.
Vlad, what are your thoughts? Jason Wanik just said loved the 2-catcher build in the 12th with the 1 pick. What are your thoughts in an OC going 2 catchers early and kind of solidifying that? Have you done that?
Your Contreras pro. I mean, I think I'm a little bit more catcher phobic than most. It's even hard for me to click on one early. I mean, there are guys like Wilson Contreras that I really like, and then when it actually comes to clicking on him, I start thinking, oh, but this is I'm look at these great pitchers or relievers I'm passing up, and then also he's always finds some way to get hurt. So I always kind of convince myself out of it, and then I'm always dabbling in the it's not the safest, smartest thing. It's probably not good at all. But the Austin Wells, Ivan Herrera, Gabriel Moreno range, and then I do have some punt catcher twos I like, but that just means I'm going to spend more time streaming and all that. So there is something to be said about getting 2 solid guys.
Yeah.
It looks like the fine people at NFBC have changed their Pete Crow Armstrong sticker because it used to not fit on there. He used to come off the page like Encarnacion Strand. So now it's just Pete Crow. Or maybe it's my my Zoom.
It's the Zoom on my board.
Okay.
He shows up. Yeah, full name.
Okay, good. I didn't want to start a bad rumor. And just put PCA. We'll all know what we're talking about.
Yep.
Nelson, talk to me about Mr. Dominguez.
It's high upside pick that could backfire. There was safer options there than him, but in these 12 teamers, I definitely shoot for more on the upside end of things, and I think the Yankees are still trying to figure out who's going to be their leadoff hitter, and I still think that there's a chance that at some point that he gets a shot.
A lot of payoff if that hits.
Yeah.
On the Thursday night stream with Mike Mager and Lucas Beery, we were talking about exactly this because we were talking about how Austin Wells has been leading off the last few games, and will that really stick? And then lo and behold, lead off again on Friday. He hits a bomb. And I mean, I think I'm a big Jason Dominguez guy this year, but I mean, maybe it's just Austin Wells this week and they'll try Jason, lead off next week. I don't know, but it's more likely looks like he's going to be a middle of the lineup guy. But Jason Dominguez he's one of the few Yankees who's going to have a double-digit walk rate, 10 to 12%. So that's good.
I just think it's a little weird, to have a catcher type leading off for you, because you would think you'd want a little bit of speed hitting in front of Judge and Bellinger and those guys.
The one thing about Wells is he does get on. I mean, he does get on base. Like for a catcher, his walk rate's elite. It's like he's also like a 10-12% guy, and he's got some pop. But yeah, no speed. I'm still Team Jason. I'm rooting for Jason Dominguez to get that.
When it is interesting how Major League Baseball has changed since when we were growing up. It was always the leadoff guy is the fastest guy on the team. All this new analytical stuff, speed has nothing to do with it. Is he on base or is he not? My Giants are a good example. Lamont Wade's going to lead off against righties. He's probably one of the slowest guys on the team, but he gets on base at a 400 clip. So it's not they don't really care about base clogging. You would think, you want a guy to score from first on a double, but all they care about is somebody hitting a 2-run homer instead of a solo homer.
By the way, I was just box score perusing, And the two worlds of teams that we talked about today have collided because the Boston Red Sox today beat up on the Miami Marlins 20-6. Bregman hit a homer. Trevor Story hit 2 homers. Even Nate Eaton, remember him, and Abraham Toro hit a home run. And guess what? Trace Thompson, remember him?
He
He's
was
trying to
with
make
the Dodgers, right?
Yeah, he's trying to make with the White Sox, a few teams. He even hit a bomb. I think it's his second in the last 3 games. I don't think he'll crack this team. And then Walker Buehler, 3 innings, 3 Ks, 1 walk. Apparently looked good again. But yeah, this Marlins again. It was Edward Cabrera first of all, giving up 6 runs early, 3 homers, a couple of walks, and then it was a bunch of guys I never heard of. So Lasky, Rooney, Roa. All right. Before it gets to you guys here, a few picks away, just kind of scouring, and same thing. Anybody that's there in the chat, go ahead and let us know who you think the best team is here. And you don't have to, no brownie points necessary if you think it's Nelson or Jason. Just speak the truth. Which team do you like the best on the board? And
if you say team 1, make sure to put your Venmo handle on there.
I like the mix of I like what Team 10 did after the strong build with the starters. I like that mix of upside starting pitchers because I feel like those are some decent deals on, potential aces. Ober, Bybee, Strider, and Rodon. Even if you're waiting a month for Strider, who knows how long it'll be. And if Rodon bounces back, he could be pulling the old rope-a-dope, right? His price drops as he sucks in spring. First start, comes in there, 8 strikeouts and no earned runs type thing. So I like it here.
Strider's another guy that's really interested in these 12 teamers. It feels like he's really mispriced going in round 10. If you can get 4.5 months out of Strider and you can replace him early, I think that we're going to look back and that should have been about a 6-round Strider and an OC. A 15 team again is a different story. It's harder to replace that, but if he comes back with that internal brace, which we don't have a ton of data on, which is the hard thing because you're putting a lot of money on the line for a question mark, but he's still Spencer Strider.
Where do you guys stand on Royce Lewis, by the way? Very polarizing pick because we know what he is when he's healthy for a full season, but he's just never done that. So are you willing to take a chance? Is this a format you're more willing to do that?
He just pulled something.
Oh, look at that. I don't know if it's serious, but hey, Rand says he just got here. He doesn't know who anyone else is. But yeah, Nelson is team 3. He likes your team.
Yeah.
Jason's
Rand,
team 1.
that is my burner account.
Yeah, I was going to say that had to be Nelson's burner account.
You are on deck.
I'm sorry, you're saying something about Royce? Someone have a Royce preference? Yes or no?
I'm out. I didn't like how he looked last year when he came back and played. I don't know if the hot start from the previous year was a flash in the pan or what, but yeah, I'm probably out on Royce. Probably gonna have to see it first before jumping back in.
Yeah, he hasn't been a target of mine. I wouldn't say that I would rule out drafting him, but just not a guy that I'm really looking to take.
All right, 12th round pick for Nelson Sousa at the underscore franchise 12. Chris Sanchez having an amazing spring. Velocity is up.
Rockets on his ADP. He is flying up the board.
Killing me, man. Killing me.
Moving on to the next. I forgot who Nelson picked already.
Man. Popping Chris in the 12th. By the way, Tanner Scott, that seems to be pretty late for him. We've seen him in 15 teamers. He's been going in the low hundreds. Tanner Scott's ADP is actually it's 122 in March here in OCs, 98 min, 152 max. So this is just a little bit more towards the max. Robert Suarez not getting traded at this point, does it seem? He's going to stick as a closer, at least for now.
I think for now.
Yeah. I would much rather have Jason Adam, but he should start the season with saves.
All right, Jason takes his SP4 in Robbie Ray, who texted Tariq Skubal for one of his offerings, and Skubal said, "Hey, sure." And now Ray's testing it out, and you'll probably see it at a ballpark near you. Damn, nice.
You are on deck.
Yeah, so Suarez is kind of polarizing. Are you guys just avoiding him?
I haven't been drafting him.
He's a fade for me, Nelson.
Yeah.
He was amazing last year, but he has two guys behind. First of all, he's a trade candidate, and he's got two guys behind him who are better pitchers, as far as I'm concerned. The best reliever doesn't always get the ninth inning, but I don't see Suarez getting saves all season.
Yeah, it's so tough to you draft him like in the whatever top 10 rounds, and all of a sudden he's out of a job. It's like it's so brutal, and that's what's tricky about closers is that you need it. You need the saves if you want to contend for the overall title. And at some point, you're going to have to take guys that you can talk yourself into it. Like, oh, they got the job. They're pretty safe. And then it's like, 1-2 shaky outings or, a couple of blown saves. And all of a sudden they're out of the role.
And
that plug your nose pick, you just got to have it. And it's hard. It's the hardest thing to get in fantasy, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, in the 12-teamers, especially in these OCs, you will find it all season long. Maybe not every week. There'll always be a closer to bid on, just the nature of sort of shallower leagues. Of course, there's some OCs that'll be more competitive than others. Maybe some, you got a league with a few CLQs in there. That's a championship league qualifier. But my experience playing the OC for over a decade, it's always easier to find them, where you don't have to spend $200-300 for them, as we've seen people do in the main event. Cough, cough. 2021 Julian Merriweather.
302, I think, was the fab average.
Man.
And 2 saves and done.
Yeah.
He didn't lose the job. He blew out his arm, from what I remember, right?
Yeah.
So maybe the process wasn't bad.
The Blue Jays, right?
Yeah.
That might have been the same year I bid. I picked up and dropped and bid like on Rafael Dolis 2 or 3 times in the same league. Got like 2 saves.
The people we pick up through Fab that we think might have a shot at closings are some of the worst players in fantasy or in Major League Baseball, just because we think they might get saves. It's pretty fascinating, the people we roster just to try to get a save.
I actually think that it's such an interesting debate to go back and forth and listening to like podcasts and different, very smart players, better, smarter than me at fantasy baseball. And it's like, do you in season, do you buy the skills or do you buy the role? Like, this pitcher looks like he has the role as the closer, but, doesn't really have the skills to like maintain it. So like you go after like the guy that's throwing like 99 with like a slider and a change. And what do you guys think on that?
For me, it's a lot of manager tendencies. There's a lot of old school managers. They like the experience, the Kyle Finnegan, the Carlos Estevez's. It's not necessarily about skills, because I think we've been betting against Finnegan now for the last 3 years, and he's racking up 30 saves a year. I'm much more likely to grab the closer that has the job early rather than the skills. And then I'll follow closely the usage. Who's coming in the 8th? Is the closer struggling? Who's next in line? And then try to take that shot to get that closer spec for $1 on Fab rather than $300.
Yeah, it's a game of obviously staying a week ahead, and you're catching the trends of a guy that's just throwing heat. Let's say like a Diasbell Hernandez on the Braves, and you see Iglesias start slipping. They got some of their other, I don't know, Dylan Lee's out or something, and a guy like Diasbell just starts, moving up. Now he's pitching the 7th and 8th. Now he's getting some crucial outs, getting more management trust. And then at some point, you want to be ahead of something like that, during the season. So. By the way, Nelson, the OBP shirt, man, that's amazing. You're wearing a baseball shirt. That's incredible. Am I right?
I am.
You down with OBP? Yeah. From Roto Wear,
Yep.
Right?
That's correct.
Roto
Speaking
Wear,
of
great
geology,
company.
I got my Kansas City Moose shirt on. Thanks, Anthony.
Nice.
I got my hat
Gotta
in the background here
represent.
somewhere. All right. Alexis Diaz, their Reds closer. He's got Taylor Rogers behind him. Alexis Diaz should be back. I forgot the injury he was dealing with, hamstring or something like that, but he should be back
The
soon.
injury is sucking.
Pitching Great American.
Being the wrong Diaz.
Yeah, being in the shadow of Edwin.
But who is it behind him? I see people in Draft Champions drafting. I think it's Tyler Rogers or
Taylor.
Taylor. The Giants. I mean, he was a Giant last couple of years. They wouldn't use him anywhere near high leverage situations. Is it Santillan? Who's behind him when he loses that job? I don't think it's an if anymore, but maybe we keep betting against him and he keeps it.
Well, Taylor Rogers is the, obviously a twin brother. Tyler played on the teams together last year. He is the top lefty in the pen. He does have closer experience. He's the guy that remember the big Josh Hader trade with San Diego, Milwaukee closer. So he didn't have the best season last year, but he actually did he have a good season? Anyways, Tony Santillan, I should know how to pronounce that. Somebody I liked in DC's a couple months ago, like his, filth, his swinging strike rate, like his velocity, just it really, really pops. And he was a nice spec like a month ago. Now he might be buried. Of course, he can kind of move his way back up. Emilio Pagan is always in the mix. But yeah, right now they, as far as projected, it's Taylor Rogers would kind of be the next man up.
Has Francona named him the closer as far as Alexis Diaz? Because we got a new manager there this year, and he's old school. I wonder if he's going to tolerate the walks and everything. Has anybody seen any news? Is Alexis Diaz the official closer under him?
Yeah, I mean, I just assumed it, but I would think so. I think he'd be.
I would too. It'd be interesting. Every time you get a new manager in there, it's going to be interesting how the bullpen usage is. Another Seattle. How are they going to use Andres Munoz this year with the new manager?
It's true. It's a good point. Yeah, it's the beauty of this all. There's just going to be constant surprises like every single day. Nelson, Dr. Doom wants to know. You got to follow him, Nelson, for football. Of course, he's our high stakes lead. But yeah, I mean, I think based on your team, he's probably thinking, or maybe he's joking. Maybe he knows.
He's trying to figure it out, right? I think I'm just like an AL East fan.
But you are from like Boston area and are a Red Sox fan by heart, like outside of Philadelphia, right?
Yeah, I was born and raised in Boston area, and then I moved out to New York about 20 years ago.
Yeah. So yeah, that makes sense. Do you like both?
And as far as like rooting interest, I dislike the Yankees.
Okay.
I do every once in a while with my kids attend a Mets game though.
Nice.
So when we moved out here, my youngest son who plays baseball, we're out here in New York. He kind of became a little bit of a Mets fan. So we go to Mets games and everything, and we enjoy it. Plus, the Red Sox for a few years now, there hasn't been much to get excited about. But this year, I think we're excited.
I was going to ask you what you thought of the team this year, Nelson, being kind of a Red Sox fan. Or I guess you are a Red Sox fan to call it out.
Yeah, I'm more optimistic this year than previous years for sure.
All right, Brandon thinks he knows who you are taking. Let's see.
Okay.
I don't think it's that obvious, is it, Nelson?
Man, maybe. Let's see if he gets it right.
We shall see. I like that pick. That's value, in my opinion, right there.
Yeah, I got a 12-team grid. I call it the gritty now. You guys make fun of me, but in the gritty, the 12-team OC grid, I've moved Colton Cowser up a little bit, kind of a little bit more closer to market price. Man, he's got a lot of pop, a lot of power. They were talking about him, Jackson Holiday, some of the other guys running a little bit more. Colton Cowser can steal a few bases, so this could be a big year.
I'm kind of bullish on him. I think he's capable of going like 30-10, 30-15 this year.
And if you get some, good luck, positive batting outlier season, some lucky BABIP and hits 265. I mean, it's possible.
Okay, there's the speed. I was wondering from Jason when I was looking at his team, other than Witt, I was like, where's he going to get the speed from? So I really like that turn for him there.
I was hoping to actually go Kinley right there to get my second closer, but team 2, who just texted me, by the way, he said, pick apart his team if you want, Vlad. But I'm not too happy with him picking Kinley right in front of me. And he got Dylan Cruz in front of me earlier, so he's sniping me a little bit.
Do they want to identify themselves?
Yeah, there's my buddy Jake Young. We're in a home league
nice.
together that he's impossible to trade with, so don't even bother. But I really like the guy. But yeah, taking some good picks.
Does he like Kenley, or do you listen to our pod where you were loving the Kenley deal before he signed with the Angels?
I mean, I'd like to think he's a loyal pod listener, but who knows?
All right, nice. A little Brian Reynolds-ish type pick for Nelson there with Dansby Swanson. Solid but boring. Mike Mager will be very proud of that pick. In fact, he was proud of Lucas making that pick last night.
Yeah, that's usually not my type of pick. I usually try to find some 22-year-old hotshot and take him over Swanson. But I got to mix in these solid veteran guys. They're going to hit in a good part of the lineup. He's plenty capable of, 2020 type season. It's kind of what I needed there.
Kevin Hastings, host of On the Wire podcast, a phenomenal dude and fantasy player, says disliking the Yankees is a great personal attribute. All right. At some point, I have to move this board once we start getting down here. We'll probably take you here through. We're going about an hour and a half in total, so probably through. Hopefully, these guys speed it up a little bit, and we can get to round 18, and then we'll look the.
Vlad's saying, "Hurry up, guys! Whoever's watching."
No hurry.
So, just looking at a couple of the team builds, I noticed and I'm not trying to put them on blast, but Team 9 has yet to take a closer. Team 11 took their first closer in round 14 with Fairbanks. So there's definitely some unique builds here in this draft.
That's a nice way to put it.
What do you guys think on the George Kirby at pick 174? I think it's not terrible. It's probably, if he misses a month, probably about where he should go.
So the problem with the pick for him specifically is that he doesn't have a lot of starting pitching depth, and he just took a guy. He has Acuna, who he's going to be stashing. Now
That's
he's
two
stashing
stashes.
Kirby,
Yeah.
Adolis Garcia as well, and you don't have an SB3 right now, right?
Yeah.
I mean, right?
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with the price. I think it's the issue with the team makeup.
Yeah.
I had just put in Kirby in my queue, so I was interested to see if this was early, late, if you guys thought, this is a decent flyer for him.
Yeah,
I don't
in a
wanna
12
base-
teamer. Sorry, Vlad. I was just going to say that in a 12 teamer, I think that's easily replaceable.
Yeah, I don't want to base on just one sample of one draft, and I also don't want to be. I'm not letting my my rankings be impacted by the market too much, but the market needs to be considered when I'm adjusting players, because I obviously don't want subscribers overpaying too much on someone. But when I first moved Kirby in the rankings, I think I moved them into the like 150s, 160s with the Ronaldo Lopez, those guys. Actually, Ronaldo Lopez apparently down couple ticks in velocity. I don't know if that's a thing, but something to worry about. I mean, probably is. Man, all the pitchers are going down now, huh?
Let me ask you. Here's another question for you guys, because I always find this interesting every spring training. So last year, like Hader, right? His velocity was way down, and it didn't end up being an issue. And I think there was like someone else that had the same thing, but it was like by design. How do you guys filter through the noise on stuff like that, where you're trying to evaluate spring training? Maybe you're not too worried about stats, but for a pitcher, you're like looking at the velocity, making sure like everything seems okay. In the past, it always seemed like if a pitcher is down in velocity, hey, that could be a warning sign, right? And now it's kind of like, okay, I'm going to stay away from this guy, and come to find out, he's pitching great and there was nothing to worry about.
The old rope-a-dope. Yeah, because some pitchers don't have to go full speed, or they're testing out different, arm slots or, pitches or different things, playing against like minor leaguers that aren't going to make the team. And so, yeah, that example of Josh Hader, I don't remember exactly what it was, but no two cases are the same. And that's why, to do it right, and if we have the time, you go in and you click in and you find that info. One of the things that we do, it's almost like you set me up for it wonderfully, is our spring training roundups. We're doing that. Our team is doing the digging for you to kind of, find you the answers so you don't have to do a lot of the digging yourself. But at this time of the year, there's so much to dig through. And also it could be a matter of how you're interpreting a report as well. Like you're talking about the is it real or is it noise?
Yeah.
It's really tough for Nelson. There's a lot of noise. And a lot of me with spring training, I'm looking for more breakouts than issues. And then if there are any velocity issues, I'm digging to try to find interviews with that player or manager to see what they're saying. But you're looking for guys with upticks, new pitches, things like that. Spring training can just be the death of you if you take it at face value, because these guys might be just working on a pitch, working on a grip. But all of a sudden this is they're hurt or whatever. Like Grayson Rodriguez. I was sluggish. Yeah. You're throwing 89, you're hurt. That's different than, Ronaldo Lopez being down a mile or two. Some guys want to build up slower. So, if it's, hey, we're getting ready to draft in Vegas, and the guy's still down in velocity, I'm paying attention a little more, but it's still pretty early in spring.
Okay.
Isak, Paredes, Zach Neto a little behind in, we know he's been behind for some time, but looks like behind might just mean second week of April if all looks good. I'll keep saying it. I like this Angels offense. If these guys, it's always the qualifier, if they can stay healthy, but honestly,
You are on deck.
Mike Trout, Jorge Soler, Taylor Ward, Luis Rengifo. I like the offense.
One of the funniest quotes I heard was, he's behind. What's he behind? Like, we haven't even heard like what he's supposed to be. There's been no timetable set up, but he's behind what? So it's shoulder injuries are scary. I try to be a little more risk adverse with that, but there's always value opportunities with injuries if you can time it right.
Yeah, he didn't even play a full season last year, Zach Neto, but he broke out so much so at 250 ADP last main events, and he, I think, returned top 60, 65 or 65, 70 overall value, and that's like with like 130-ish games or whatever he played. So it was a really nice season for him. Nelson, you got Gavin Williams, good home park, though the park didn't play as well last year for pitchers. Big prospect for them. It was him and Bybee coming up together. You like Gavin this year?
I do. He's definitely one of my targets this year. I think he has the stuff. If he can improve a little bit on the control, I think I liked what I've seen so far out of spring training. So,
and he's had a good spring as well so far. Clay Holmes has been having a great spring. He just went right after. Justin Martinez and Taylor Ward. So your team, Jason, your team, Justin Martinez is the guy over AJ Puck.
If he can harness the strike zone, I think absolutely. Managers historically don't want to put a lefty in that role. They have another pretty good righty in Kevin Ginkel to kind of be a seventh and Puck be the eighth. Martinez is throwing 102 in spring, and he's throwing strikes. So I'm taking that shot here at pick 193 and kind of hoping. I don't love it. It's not a huge like strategy going in as Justin Martinez, my closer too. But as far as trying to win an overall, if he can get that job and run with it, he could be pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's a good team. First, I mean, saves are going to come out of there one way or the other. Torey Lovolo, the manager, is not afraid to use Puck. Obviously, Puck is, in his perfect world situation would be Justin Martinez just harness this control, and so that Puck can do the multi-inning setup stuff in the middle innings, maybe get the occasional save, and then have Justin Martinez close. So I think a lot depends on Martinez. If he is just like on point, can reduce the strikeout rate a couple ticks, kind of like Edwin Diaz did early in his career, then you might have something really strong there.
I was actually looking at Tommy Edman there, Nelson. It's a good pick. I was stuck between him and Ward, and I thought I'd go with a little more power than speed.
Yeah, and thank you. And for me, I was looking at it as my team's a little short on speed, so that's why I went Edman and bypassed a couple other outfielders.
And to answer Rob Geis's or Geis, I'll never get that right. I just call him Geese. These are X-ray goggles, so I can see everybody's cue. So that's why I have them on.
Nice. Another question from Dr. Doom. This is a good one about Jackson Holiday. The helium gone after last year's craze. It depends what draft room you're in. I've seen him go 180 in one room, and then I got him at 280 in another. It's one of the most polarizing guys. You guys have a strong take on Holiday?
I like skill set. He's still a little young, but everything I've seen and I've read is, he's come to camp this year with like the right attitude, and he's been like really, positive, and I think they're going to give him a long leash to, figure things out. I like the skill set. I think the price is pretty good compared to last year, and I actually like post type of guys because there's a reason why they were hyped up, and then people overdraft them and they burn people, and now they could care less about that player, but that player still has the same tools.
I know, Jason, we talked about it on a pod, on the middle infielders pod, about how and I think you're probably most on point on this, is the speed will come first, and maybe the power eventually, and maybe the power not quite this year. And that's already where things are trending a month later, because he's working on his base path skills. He's just he's working. He's talking about how he's going to be running more, and strategies in that regard. So we're already kind of seeing that. But Jackson Holiday is the ultimate like OC pick. It's literally what this is for, because like Josh Lowe 2 years ago was my 30th round guy everywhere. He was the ultimate post hype guy coming, first round pick, coming off like a horrible, like little shortened, couple months in the majors or a few weeks, just horrible, right? And then goes in, just mashes the next season. We've seen a lot of cases like that. And Jackson Holiday was the number 1 overall pick in the draft, the top prospect. He is Matt Holiday's son. He plays on the Baltimore Orioles. So, do we let the whole, him showing as a platoon guy on roster resource and hitting 9th, and, do we let that really impact us and be like, oh no, I'm out? So I don't know. It's like push and pull. So intriguing.
Yeah. He's a guy, I think Nelson mentioned with the age, he feels a little young for the level. I'm probably going to be a year late on him rather than a year early. I usually like taking shots on young guys, but going back to good offenses, Baltimore is a team that scares me. I was all in on Colton Cowser, who Nelson drafted earlier. And now, with how much they paid Ramon Laureano, I think they gave him $5 million. Like, these guys are going to play. They have a lot of mouths. They have a lot of infielders. And if Jackson Holiday cannot hit lefties like he could not last year, that team wants to win. They're not going to ride out a cold streak just to let the kid grow. It's win now, other than their GM, who doesn't want to get them any pitching, but that's a whole nother conversation for a different day. But I'm out on Holiday this year at the price.
Man, they should have known better, right? Now you got Grayson dinged up. Soon it's good for Cade Povich. He's I think, get an opportunity here. But like Chase McDermott, another one of their prospects, he's hurt.
I already put an Orioles hat on Sandy Alcantara on my team.
Someone else put him on a Mets hat earlier. But you go out and you get 41-year-old Charlie Morton. Cool. All right, here we go through the end of round 18. Are you guys good? It's moving fast. You want to stick to the end of the 20th?
Yeah, it's good by me.
I'm good with whatever you guys want to do.
Okay. All right. That's a good deal on Nick Pivetta and Taj Bradley. We're already in the 200s. You're going to see a little bit of I don't know if this is necessarily a discount, but Jesus Luzardo, I think, gave up like 3 home runs in his last spring start. I don't think that's anything worrisome, because a healthy Luzardo on Philly will be a good Luzardo, I'm pretty sure. And then Nick Lodolo is another one of my polarizing guys, because we know the skill level, phenomenal lefty. If injuries were not a thing, and if he wasn't in Cincinnati, you'd be talking about him, 80 picks higher. But now, is he a deal or a dud?
Who, on Lodolo?
Yeah.
I think any pitcher in this range, in a 12-teamer, you can replace. So I rather shoot for the moon, and if it doesn't work out, kid gets sent down or whatever, I think there's guys that you can easily, find in fab, to replace those high upside pitchers. So, I'm more of, let's fire on the kid with the skills and, the arm, rather than, I don't want to name names right now that haven't been taken, but, kind of like the boring veteran type guy.
Yeah, and I think Nelson nailed that with the high upside. I mean, when Lodolo came up, he was right with Hunter Green, and he outproduced him underlying metrics the first year, if not 2. Had some injury histories, but elite strikeout. If he puts it together, the guy could be a monster. I'm worth taking a shot on it. It's got to be the right price for me, though, because there's a lot of good pitchers. Like, I'd rather have Zach Eflin than Lodolo, just for the safety aspect and the whip, for me, just as an example.
And by the way, he's likely going to open the season if most likely in the first 3 of that rotation. The San Francisco Giants, Jason's Giants, are in town to visit the Reds in Great American. So that Sunday, March 30th, might be the Nick Lodolo season opener. It'll either be that Saturday or Sunday. Actually, ESPN already has pitchers listed, and usually they do that if the manager's
Announced.
confirmed it. Yeah, so it's Hunter Green, Nick Lodolo, Nick Martinez for that series, and then the Reds stay at home against the Rangers. That'll be a hell of a series. Brady Singer, home against the Rangers,
You are up.
which I guess means if you want to draft Brady Singer, you better be comfortable with him for a 2-start week, Rangers and at Brewers for that first full week. All right, another Red Sox.
He looks good, Nelson.
He caught my eye in the playoffs. He looked good coming out of the pen, and I don't know. I think sometimes, he missed a whole year, and I think he was rusty. And you saw towards the end of the season, I started seeing some positive signs, and he looks good this spring training. So, is there a chance that we could get the Bueller of old? I know history says no, that very tough, coming back from that type of injury twice now, right?
Yep.
For him. Yeah. But
he's such a difficult guy to figure out, just because underlying numbers, if you're just looking at metrics, it's a hard no, but eye test in the playoffs, he looked like that dude again. And if he can turn that around at pick 214, I think it is. I mean, he was always overdrafted a little bit as a 1 when he was going round 2, round 3 in the mains, but he still can get that, huge value back if he can harness that again. So I think it's kind of taking a shot in the dark, but I believe it's a really good shot in the dark that can pay off right here.
You are on deck.
By the way, it must be said that I don't know why I don't do this on streams that you're not on, Nelson, but the sound of the on deck and the on the clock is perfect. Like, it's a must. Nice sound.
okay.
Effect.
All right. Excellent.
I like it.
I muted mine because we're too close together. I didn't need too much of that.
Oh yeah, no, that's one is good. That's perfect. All right, Nathan Eovaldi, oldie but a goodie, or is he still a goodie?
I drafted him, so hopefully he is.
Jason Wanick, thank you, my man. FTN Team Rock subscription is the best. Fab on Sunday is a must. And also Drops and Disasters, Mike Mager. On Saturdays, or no, on Sundays, and then on Monday, Lucas Beery's Week Ahead. Bullpen report from Dan Thompson, and Adam Young. Todd Whitestone with the main event report. Adam Young's the FSWA Baseball Writer of the Year. And we've also got another special surprise coming to you soon.
Vlad, thoughts on Matt Shaw this year on the Cubs?
I'd probably be the third baseman for most of the season. Great prospect. Could potential as a rookie to be a 15-15 guy. I think good contact skills and average in the minors might take a bit to translate in the majors. Part of a good team, good offense. They'll probably start to gel at some point, in April, May, or when it starts to warm up. So he'll be a part of it. I think he might still miss the Tokyo series, so maybe there's a little bit of a discount there. So overall, I like him for the price.
Yeah, I didn't realize he had so many steals last year, and big fan of his contact in the minors as well.
Yeah, he's a mushroom, all right. He's a fun guy. That's how you know it's late. And
The mushroom.
Huh?
Did you
Fun
say
guy.
mushroom?
I said mushroom, and then I said fun guy. I didn't plan it. It just came out that way.
Oh, the dad jokes are out, ladies and
Dude,
gentlemen.
they are out.
We're going to have to sign off here ASAP before this gets ugly.
I told you we shouldn't go past the 18th. This is
You called it. We made the decision. We're getting punished now.
There's someone watching it during the day, like, what the, Nelson, by the way, he's on the East Coast, so he's 1 a.m. So, dude, appreciate you, being on here for this.
Those East Coast guys don't sleep.
Yeah.
Nelson and Modica just are up all night.
Drafting.
Is there a draft this late?
There's usually one at 8
signups?
or 11:30 30 minutes later than this one, the late night OC. I did
Yeah,
that one.
I think they filled that one. I was listen,
You're going to double tap?
I'm an addict when it comes to drafting.
The first step to recovery is admitting the problem.
Man.
Well, Nelson during football, and obviously, Nelson super high stakes on football stuff. And sometimes you would take a phone call while being on the clock and like 2 primetime drafts at the same time.
Yeah. Yep.
That's some crazy stuff. That's pro.
Get some.
You're drafting all summer. It just becomes kind of like second nature where it's actually kind of embarrassing and kind of cool saying this, but like by the end of the summer, I don't even need like a cheat sheet or like a draft room. I could just kind of draft off of memory and know like what guys are available.
That's not embarrassing at all. That's what I want to be, other than my memory failing me. And it's harder in baseball, but I know there are some leagues that do that. The no notebook, no cheat sheet leagues. Some hardcore stuff that started back in the 80s. Like you just, leagues that have been going for 40 years. You still like, you can't have anything at the tip. No computer, no phone, no notes, nothing. You just draft off your brain.
Man, I like that.
That's cool. For our man, Kevin Hastings, who's in Hawaii, it's only 7:40.
Oh, it's super early for him.
All right. We're going to wrap things up here with the round 20 here. And don't have the whole draft board. Hard to fit the whole thing on here. Want to make sure you can see all the picks. But any thoughts of like the last 10 rounds of any teams, like any just sort of builds you like, or any teams that stand out who you guys think will be competitive against you both in this draft?
For me, it's team 10's really interesting if he can fill out his offense, because the pitching depth that he has, as I think Pavetta as SP7. No, SP. Well, he's got 3 closers too, and Luzardo. He drafted a lot of pitching early, which I really like. To kind of get ahead of that, if he can finish off the hitting and catch up, I think that's a pretty good build there.
You can sometimes, like at this point, I can sort of like, doctor of a draft room. Not Dr. Dave, of course, because no one has that many degrees, but still, I can look through a draft and see, okay, this team is going to. Even with Fab, even thinking of Fab, but like you can see which teams are going to do better on the pitching side in pitching points versus the hitting points. You can sometimes sort of tell, but that team 10 has got a good thing going on at pitcher, I think. Very good thing.
Yeah, team 10. I feel like team 7. Maybe a little light in speed. He made up some ground.
He's got Carroll at the top, about 40. You get James Wood, 15 to 20.
The Mullins, Horner, Neto could catch him up pretty quickly.
Yeah, he made up some ground there.
Yeah.
I kind of like that team. Team 6 is, that very low floor, but it's got upside.
Yep.
You start off with any junior in the first few rounds, you're probably in a good spot there. Jazz, Acuna, Guerrero, Witt.
Mm-hmm.
All right. We are turning the corner.
I think team 1's pretty good too, Vlad. Just saying.
Yeah, it's all right.
And team 3's all right too. Yeah, I'm rooting for him.
Seems like it's all yellow and green here. And just like with a splash of Matt Shaw.
It's a new drink.
All right, we're going to wrap things up here. Any last thoughts overall about your team, about anything going on in spring training? We'll wrap this puppy up.
I don't think so. I don't think I have anything else.
To Mr. Waddell, I think I'm going to catch up on outfielders. So thanks for reminding me. I wasn't going to draft 5. So appreciate the help. You know, I don't know what I'd do without you.
Thank you, everyone. The next live stream will be, it'll be a My League. I'll be drafting on Sunday, 6 p.m. Eastern, and there are a few spots left. So if you want to do that, get in there. We're going to have Dan Thompson, who hasn't been on one of our streams yet. Our bullpen report guy will be joining us, Jason as well, and maybe some more surprise guests. So stay tuned for the guys here, Nelson Sousa, Jason Anthony. I'm Vlad Sedler. This is the FTN Fantasy live stream NFBC draft.
You are on deck.
And we'll talk to you next time.